We're just about 2 months away from the midterm elections, and it's time for you to meet the candidates on the ballot. We have some huge races at stake this year, from the state legislature to the U.S. Senate seat. One race many will be following very closely in our area is for the Wake County Sheriff. A new leader will be at the helm after incumbent Sheriff Gerald Baker lost his re-election primary to Democrat Willie Rowe. Rowe will now face off against Republican and former longtime Sheriff Donnie Harrison. And tonight we will talk to both candidates about their vision for a safer Wake County. Thanks so much for joining us for On the Record. I'm Lena Tillett. First, if you are new to the area or new to following this race, we want to tell you about these candidates. Willie Rowe is the current chairman of the Wake County ABC Board, an Army veteran, and served 28 years with the Wake County Sheriff's Office, retiring as a major. Donnie Harrison has served in law enforcement for more than 40 years, both with the State Highway Patrol and the Wake County Sheriff's Office. He was sheriff in Wake County from 2002 to 2018 before losing to Gerald Baker in his re-election bid. And they are both joining me tonight. Thank you both. Mr. Rowe, I'll begin with you. You decided to challenge incumbent Sheriff Gerald Baker after he served just one term. Why do you now want to leave the office you once worked for?
Well, good evening. Thank you for this opportunity. Well, I seek to be sheriff because I have a passion for public safety. I believe that people live life to the fullest when they feel safe. So that's my goal, my passion, to make Wake County the safest place to live, work, play, and visit.
Same general question for you, Mr. Harrison. I talked about your career highlights, obviously, more than 40 years in law enforcement, 16 years as a sheriff. So why now do you want to be sheriff again? And if I may, at your age?
Well, it's my love. It's my passion. Like Mr. Rowe said, it's something that we do. We enjoy doing. That's all I've ever wanted to do in my life is to be in law enforcement. And with the way crime is going on now, the things just no disrespect. Nobody respects anybody anymore. I feel like with my leadership, the experience that I have, knowing the people that I already know after being in law enforcement for as long as I've been, and 16 years as sheriff, I feel sure that quickly I can bring some order back into this county. So we'll be pleased to go shop and play at whatever we want to do in Wake County.
You know, Mr. Rowe, we've reported on concerns about low morale within the Wake Sheriff's Office. You spent, like I said, many years there. Why do you think morale is so low right now, and what's your plan to fix it?
Morale is always low when staff does not feel appreciated and they're not valued and have poor work conditions. But we have to put together a plan that has a clear career development path, a plan that also lets our employees know they're appreciated, gives them opportunity to advance, provide them with the resources they need, the supervision and parameters to operate within, allow them to be successful, relieve stress, allow them to go home to their families and enjoy life.
You know, there did seem to be a contingent of deputies supportive of Sheriff Harrison who were not pleased when Sheriff Baker won the election. If you win, how do you expect to gain their trust?
It's about building trust in the sense of relationship, reaching out, making people understand that we are one and we're here for the same purpose. I had the fortune to spend 20 years at the sheriff's office, so I have previous experience with most of the deputies that work with them directly. And we would just continue to build on that. And it's by being accessible and available and leading by example that we can restore that public trust, the unity within the agency, and go out and serve to the full capacity that office can.
Mr. Harrison, staffing is an issue for law enforcement statewide. It's not just an issue within the Wake County Sheriff's Office. So what's your specific plan to hire more deputies? Where do you find them?
Well, that's going to be a job. But with my reputation and supporting the employees, then that's what I do. We're all one big family in law enforcement. And the people at the Sheriff's Office know I'm going to be there for them. My reputation working with other agencies, other chiefs throughout the state, throughout the county. I feel great about recruiting. We're already looking at different ways of one, to recruit, two, to train, and that is very, very important to me, training. I look back, we had a good sheriff's office, but I know we can do better. Times has really changed, technology has changed. And then we got to retain the people that we hire. Working with the county commissioners is something that I feel good about. And when I go into the county commissioners meeting, they know that I'm coming in with a plan. They know I'm just not going to come in and say, I want this, I want that. I have a business plan with me. This is why we need this, and this is why we need that. We've got to get the salaries up for our detention officers. We've got to get the salaries up for our deputies. Detention, they feel left out sometimes. And that's something that we're going to work very hard on. Already started, like I say, I'm already talking with CALEA and other national agencies on training. I've talked to Wake Tech and other agencies. So I feel like with the program that we're putting together, and it will be together on election day so we can start the next day. I feel like when the people that we're talking to and going out and recruiting at different locations, the veterans, I've already talked to the veterans. We've got some things working with the veterans. So we got some stuff working on it and be ready to go when we get elected.
Mr. Rowe, you've made hiring more deputies a priority of your campaign as well. Where specifically do you plan to look to hire strong deputies?
Yes, getting to sufficient staffing levels is most important. And you have to have a long-term plan as well as a short-term plan. And of course, we know long-term, it's about recruiting and running academies, looking out at all the different BLOT courses in the community colleges. On the short term, we have to reach out to our retirees. We have to reach out to retirees from all other law enforcement agencies that reside in Wake County. Bring back a reserve program, allow these officers to work so we can put more deputies in the communities for community engagement and in the schools and businesses to keep our county safe. So that's the plan that we'll do. We'll have the appropriate training, and we will have incentive programs. We'll also put together programs that the deputies, detention officers, as well as the civilian staff know that we're all one, and their families included, by having a spouse support group. We'll have the family enrichment and recognition group. We'll have a retiree and former employee appreciation group. We'll put together a scholarship fund while the children of our staff. In addition to that, we'll have a chaplain's emergency program to address all the stress that we face in work as well as the inmates in the jail, victims at crime scenes, and perpetrators, so that we all get the necessary resources and treatment we need for a better society.
It seems like you really want to emphasize that the whole family needs support. You've mentioned that a couple times. We just need to take a quick break. I'll have more questions for the candidates after the break. Stay with us. Our team is your team.
We live and breathe the triangle.
And at 10 p.m., a whole day's worth of information comes together 1 hour earlier.
Just for you.
Whether it's breaking news, live on the scene,
call police right away,
inside the WRAL Live Center,
Durham School Board,
or a weather forecast prepping you for tomorrow's plans.
Severe weather is on the way.
Why? Because you are worth it.
You need to be watching WRAL News at 10 on Fox 50, the only live local news at 10 p.m.
Welcome back. We are talking to the two candidates for Wake County Sheriff. I wanted to talk about something that I know has been a very touching issue for many deputies statewide. A couple weeks ago, I sat down with 4 sheriffs during a really difficult time. We've seen in less than 30 days, 7 deputies shot in the line of duty, 2 tragically fatally. And I know you both know Deputy Ned Bird. And they talked about the wide scope of a deputy job, just responding to so many different types of calls. So I wanted to ask you what I asked them, Mr. Rowe. What do you think is leading to this recent gun violence toward deputies?
What is leading to it?
Yes.
I think it's a matter of people being frustrated, people being feeling they have to reach out and utilize crime as a means of survival, as a means of acceptance, as well as a means of control. And so it's important that law enforcement build the relationships with the community. We have to capitalize on all the latest technology that would help us identify and prevent crime. We also have to use traditional methods, and we have to expand on our community engagement so that we're able to let the community know that we are working with all stakeholders to reduce crime, to also create opportunities for successful outcomes. just be a working partner with the community to let everyone know the value. We have to conduct ourselves in such a way to earn the respect of the community. And that way we respect the community respects us, and we work jointly to address this issue.
Same question to you, Mr. Harrison. What do you think is leading to more attacks against law enforcement?
I think we're getting soft on crime. I'll be honest with you. I think so many people are getting away with things that they used to couldn't get away with. We've got to go back and enforcing the law like it should be. We've got to stand up for our community. There's so many people that have no idea what law enforcement officers see and do every day, how many times they risk their life every day getting out of a car. And I'll be honest with you, news media hadn't helped us a whole lot either. They like to make judgments too quickly. And I think we've just got to sit down and make sure, like Mr. Rowe says, we got to get everybody involved. You just can't stand and watch somebody tear up a man's store or bust a car window out and not do anything about it. So we've got to get the people behind us and let them understand we're human beings and we're out here to protect and serve the people. And that's what we're going to do. The judges has got to help us. The DAs has got to help us. We're in the beginning of it, but we can't do it by ourselves. But the most important is the people in our county, the people in our state. They've got to understand the laws is there for a purpose. They've got to have respect for us, and we got to have respect for them. So like Mr. Rowe said also, I agree with him 100%. We've got to come together as a unit and say, time out. We've had enough crime. My granddaughter don't want to go shopping anymore. My daughter don't want to go shopping anymore. My grandson don't want to go shopping. This has got to stop. Law and order has got to come back, and we're going to make sure when I'm elected, it is coming back.
You know, Mr. Harrison, one of the things the sheriff said to me is deputies do a lot. You know, do you think they're asked to do too much? Eviction notices, involuntary commitment papers, they're asked by judges to do so much. Are there other entities that you think should be responding to some of these calls, or should it be deputies?
No, well, it's got to be a combination. I think we all got to work together. I think the mental health issue is really a big problem in Wake County. When they took Dorothy Dix away from Wake County, that was, to me, it was a big mistake, and I stood up for that, and I'll continue to say that. But yes, we can use the help of other people, mental health professionals. I've already started talking to them. How can we work better together? But the problem that you run into is a very dangerous job, and you don't want to put somebody out there to get hurt. So that's where the line is. You've got to have that line in there to work together where you feel comfortable, just like our schools. We've all got to work together with our schools. So it's basically working together as a team. We've got to forget about the Republican, Democrat, the people, where people's from. It doesn't make any difference about the color. We want a safer community, and to do that, we've got to come together.
Mr. Rowe, you have said specifically you'd like to create a community engagement unit to address cases, situations of mental health or drug addiction or even domestic violence calls. Why? And would those responders be armed?
I think it's very important to address those issues by providing the appropriate resources in a timely manner. Most of those cases are crisis type situations that have not escalated to criminal activity yet. So if we can partner with Health and Human Services and bring the trained and certified personnel to the scene prior to law enforcement arriving, they may be able to de-escalate it, diffuse it, and provide the proper resources. We need to be on standby to respond, to ensure that it's safe. But many situations can be handled without law enforcement presence. There are models all around the United States that's working effectively now, and we want to build on that so that we can diffuse these situations without them resulting in arrest or someone being injured.
And those people then, you're saying, would not be armed. They'd be coming from a different department altogether.
Correct. I'd like to reach out to the commissioners to hire more civilian staff who are trained and certified, who can work jointly with our current Wake County Health and Human Services, so that it'll be sheriff office personnel, unarmed, along with the county's staff, so we can address it, the most appropriate way. But we have to stand always ready to respond and ensure that it's safe in case it escalates to a dangerous situation.
Let's move to crime in Wake County, and this question is for both of you. I'll begin with you, Mr. Harrison. New data shows violent crime has risen this year slightly, though property crime is down. What's your plan to combat it and to help residents feel safe?
Well, there again, you got to go back. We've got to have the personnel to do the job. We got to have people out in the field that's there, because people, when you see deputies and law enforcement officers in the field, it's a deterrent. So we've got to hire that personnel. We got to make sure that we utilize the money and utilize the deputies in the right form, in the right places. We got to figure out where the crime is coming from. And that way, when we have the personnel, once we get them trained, they've got to be visible. They've got to go in and work with the neighborhoods. I tell my deputies all the time, when I was sheriff, be seen. You go to your convenience stores, go to your neighborhoods, let people know who you are, hand out your cards and tell them you're working this zone. If you need me, call me. And so that way you're not only you're getting to know them, they're getting to know you. Plus you're being seen, and the person that's going to break in your house or somebody else's house, they say, well, the deputies are here in this area all the time. I'm going somewhere else. And so, pulling together there again, you got to have the support of the community. And that's most important. I tell my deputies all the time when we'd have staff meetings and when we'd have in-service schools, put God first, your family, your job, and treat people like you want to be treated. And if we do that with everybody, then we're going to have a safer community, because they all know we're working together. We're inclusive. It doesn't matter who you are or what we're doing. We're working together as a team.
Mr. Rowe, what's your plan to bring down violent crime?
Well, crime, like all other issues, a lot of focus is put on the what without understanding the why. It's not until you know the why can you fix the what. So it takes a comprehensive approach. We have to use some of the traditional methods of having a presence to deter and prevent crime, but we have to build those relationships, and we have to create opportunities for successful outcomes. And we have to work with all our agencies because there's strength in numbers, there's unity, and this way we can reduce crime. When we look at it, as you aforementioned, violent crime is up, but property crimes are down. Now, among the property crimes, we used to experience a lot of break-ins. What we see now is the fraud. We see the scams and issues that way. That's your new break-in, because it's less risk and you don't have a middleman you have to pay, and it's harder to detect. So we have to evolve with the crimes that are occurring today, have the technology to address them, prevent them, and make the proper apprehension. Violent crimes, again, out of frustration or feeling a need for survival, acceptance, or control, people are committing violent crimes, and we have to find a way to address that. We have to contain it, and I'm committed to putting forth the resources from this office, as well as working with all the stakeholders in the community to make sure that we can stem this violence and make Wake County safer for everyone.
All right, we have to take another quick break. We'll be right back with the candidates.
Some stories are impossible to tell in a few minutes. That is where the WRAL doc unit comes in. I want people watching these documentaries to see things that they might never see. They may feel upset,
talk to me,
empathy, shock.
That is the Neuse River.
Most importantly, I want them to learn something. I'm Kristen Severance, and I'm the WRAL investigative documentary reporter.
We're back now with the two candidates running for Wake County Sheriff. I wanted to begin this segment with you, Mr. Harrison, because when you were sheriff, you supported the 287G program that allowed deputies to check the immigration status of people arrested in Wake County. It was a cooperation agreement with federal immigration enforcement. And a lot of people were upset about this. They felt it could make undocumented immigrants fearful about reporting crimes. So you initially supported this program, but now you say you will not support it if you are sheriff. Why the change?
Well, it's really not a change. It's back when I first started on this, and I'll try to be as brief as I can, people took a lot of this out of context. It wasn't that we were going out talking to people and trying to see if they were illegal or undocumented or whatever it was. It was when they were coming to my jail, I knew that we were letting people back out on the street that were they were not who they said they were. And that was a concern to me. And I couldn't get anybody to help me. I tried all the senators, the congressmen, and everything that I could, Homeland Security, ICE, FBI. And back then, there was a lot of tiffs going on. They didn't want to give up their information. They didn't want to do this. They didn't want to do that. So we were fortunate enough to get into the ICE program, the 287G program, where they trained our officers so we could use the equipment they had to make sure a person was who he said they were. My concern was letting dangerous criminals back out on the street. But everybody tried to play it up that we were going just to tell people they had to leave the country. I found it different than most people saw it because I was out and about, and as you know, seeing people were telling me to keep the program because it was keeping them safe. Okay, now let's go back to now. Now, 287G is basically gone. I think there's 3 counties in the state that has 287G. The president said he's going to do away with it. So I have to come up with something to make sure that I'm doing the same thing, that I'm keeping our community safe, the people that lives in our community, regardless of who they are.
Do you understand the perspective from the Latino community in Wake County, though, who were worried about people who hadn't committed a crime, thinking that they might be asked about their immigration status? Do you now understand where they're coming from?
That was the problem. The people, and unfortunately the news media had a lot to do with it, were saying that we were asking about their whether they were legal or not. That was not the truth. And it was never the truth. It was only when you were brought to our jail. And I think it did good. If we hadn't had this program, we'd have had a lot more problems than we have. Now that we don't have the 287G, I've got to come up with a plan, and CCBI has come a long way. That their information that they have over there now, the intelligence they have, I'm happy with that because everybody, inclusive, everybody's checked when they come through our jail. So if you're brought through our jail, every person, regardless of your color, or who you are or what you are, is checked. And that way now they can't say that we're playing on Hispanics, we're playing on this, we're playing on that.
Mr. Rowe,
yes, they can see.
Mr. Rowe, you've always disagreed with the program. Why?
Well, I'd like to first say that I will work with all agencies, local, state, and federal, to keep Wake County safe. As regarding the 287G program, simply put, the program was not fair, and it did more harm than it helped. I think that maybe the intentions were good, but the program was not cost effective, and nor was it really productive in keeping the most dangerous people out of our communities and off the street. So we have to find a way to address crime. And what separates America from all other most nations are that we enforce our laws in a legal, fair, and humane way. 287G is not humane. And we had the capability, as I was a deputy sheriff, investigator, well, a supervisor, we ran background checks on people we investigated to determine if they had a criminal history, if they were wanted for any violations. And once they were arrested and we processed them through CCBI, they ran a more extensive check that was based off name, date of birth, social security number, and fingerprints. And they were able to identify anybody wanted under investigation by other agencies. So I thought it was very comprehensive system we already have in place that will identify people who are a threat so we can make the appropriate decision. That same information is shared with the magistrates to help them set bond. It's also shared with the district court judges at first appearing. So we've got a plan in place and we just work it fully so everybody's treated the same.
I wanted to allow both of you to have ample time to respond to that question. Unfortunately, we are out of time, but people should certainly go to both of your websites to learn more about your policies and your direction for the Wake County Sheriff's Office. Thank you for joining me this evening. Election Day is November 8th, and WRAL is your home for everything you need to know about the race and the candidates who will represent you. If you have something to say about tonight's discussion, please follow me on Facebook and Twitter. You can also send us an email at ontherecord@WRAL.com. Have a great night.
Every fire department has regulations firefighters abide by for safety. These are the Charlotte Fire Department's regulations, but firefighters tell me what's written on here and what's being enforced are two different things. Battalion Chief Sylvia Pfeiffer has been with CFD for 30 years. She says there's new confusion over how hair must be worn on the job. Several firefighters tell WCNC Charlotte it started when a woman was told her hair was in violation for being past her collar. The grooming policy states hair must be above the collar when wearing the formal Class A uniform. There was no instruction on length outside of that.
An individual may have wore their hair a certain way, and then all of a sudden one day someone comes into the station and says, oh, your hair's out of regs. You have to change it like today.
President of the Charlotte Firefighters Association, Tom Brewer, is trying to get clarification on the rule, but hasn't heard back from CFD leadership.
Our main issue is if you're going to change a policy or if you're going to reinterpret a policy, you have to tell people.
For many women, having hair above collar means putting it in a bun.
And one woman said this to me. She said, if I can't wear my hair in a bun, if I wear my hair in a bun, then I'm going to die.
Pfeiffer says buns can get in the way of mask seals and protective equipment. So we asked CFD to clear up the confusion. The spokesperson did not answer questions about the new interpretation of the policy, but said no firefighters have been disciplined for violating it. Adding, quote, we are always evaluating policies to make sure we are sensitive to cultural and societal changes. Several firefighters tell me they're still confused on what's allowed and what's not. Pfeiffer says she wants to see women at the table when it comes to creating policies to ensure they're inclusive for all firefighters. In Charlotte, Julia Kaufman, WCNC Charlotte.
Good to see you, sir.
Meteorologist Amy Wilmoth in the WRAL Severe Weather Center. It's a messy finish to the long holiday weekend over western North Carolina. And later today, a couple of these showers could move into central North Carolina. We'll keep a close eye on the radar. We have about a 20 to 30% chance for a shower the second half of the day today. We'll take you into the evening time around 5 o'clock. Some passing showers will be possible. These will be moving in from the west. Not everybody gets the rain today, but a few showers possible as we wrap up the Labor Day holiday. This is 5 o'clock this evening. We'll pause the clock here at 11 o'clock. Around 11 o'clock tonight, still a few showers possible. And we'll keep the potential for a couple of showers overnight tonight as well. A 30% chance for some showers, maybe an isolated storm Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And then we're back to a 20% chance for rain by Friday. For today, we'll climb up to 91. It's going to be a hot day, a couple of spotty showers late in the day, a few storms around Tuesday with a high of 90, and then a few storms on Wednesday and a little bit cooler with a high of 87.
stroke of a pen, it's a new beginning for a handful of residents of Louisiana. This is now home.
This is the first project of its kind in our nation's history. These are basically climate change refugees.
Less than 40 miles away, some 60 kilometres, is where they used to live, on the Ile de Jean-Charles, which is vanishing into the sea. Climate change and erosion from oil and gas canals are largely to blame.
In our own yard, right here, I could count 15 trees whenever I was growing up that's not there anymore.
Facing the reality of a 98% loss of land in just under 7 decades, the state of Louisiana and an indigenous tribe from the island applied for a new federal grant in 2016 designed to help areas impacted by climate change to move the community to the mainland. It's a controversial solution which was met with some resistance by people who didn't want to leave. But it's one that countries around the world are considering as they too face the loss of habitable land due to climate change. Forecasts say in 30 years the Welsh village of Fairbairn is at risk of being engulfed by rising sea levels. So about a decade ago, officials decided they couldn't afford to maintain its flood defences against such conditions, and that by 2054, Fairbairn would no longer be a safe or sustainable place to live. Authorities say they're working on a plan to eventually relocate people, but some say they don't have details on when and where they will go.
Nearly 1,000 people living here, and this is their home. This is where they live.
Some residents aren't giving up easily and are challenging the government to find other alternatives. But a recent report by the Royal Meteorological Society says that sea levels around the UK are on the rise, especially over the last 30 years, leaving coastal land in more danger from winds and waves and larger and more frequent storms. A prospect some villagers say is worrying.
In, I don't know, 100, 200, 300 years' time, if what is being talked about comes to fruition, the UK is going to be just a bit of a strip of land down the middle. And where are all these people going to go?
A question residents in many places are pondering if more action isn't taken to protect coastal lands as the effects of climate change are felt closer to home. Michael Holmes, CNN.
First tonight at 6, 2 people are dead and 5 others are hurt after a mass shooting near Virginia's Norfolk State University. University officials said several of the victims were students. The shooting happened at an off-campus housing community where police say a party had been advertised on social media.
Apparently a fight broke out at the party, and once the fight started, then somebody pulled out a gun and started shooting. It is very important that we keep the integrity of the investigation intact, as we still have witnesses to talk to, and we're still in the active part of collecting evidence to make sure we get everything that we need.
Now, Norfolk, Virginia is about 30 minutes away from the North Carolina state line. University officials said counseling services would be made available to students affected by the shooting.
Week 3 of the high school football season saw Farmville Central host West Carteret, but the focus wasn't so much on the game. United States Navy cryptologic technician and Jaguar alum Kenya Pittman has been stationed in Washington State for a year now, forcing her to miss time with family. She found out in August that she would be able to return home to Farmville to see her parents. Pittman's initial reaction was to surprise her entire family, but thought of a better idea to surprise her father, James, on his birthday, and got a little help from the Jaguars head coach during the process.
He texted the coach, and the coach was like, okay, maybe a football player. So then the coach was like, I got even better. Let me be the mascot. He was like, okay, cool. So he said, okay, after coin toss, you can go up, get your dad or whatever, take pictures with the baby, which is my nephew, and then take the hat off and show him who you was.
That's right. Pittman dressed up as the Jaguar mascot as a way to disguise herself from her father. Pittman approached her father with the costume on and asked for a picture. However, he didn't know that under the head was his baby girl.
Like I was telling my wife that I knew something was in the making because I hadn't heard from her in a little while, and I know she was back on land, and I say she's thinking about something. I just don't know what it was, and they got me. They got me good because I had no idea I had no idea that. I'm telling you, this is the greatest birthday present in the world.
Pittman says the chance to surprise her father was special because they grew up doing everything together.
It means a lot because I'm like his last child, and me and my dad did like everything together. Like we used to go to the games together. That's why I decided, okay, what day is his birthday on? And it just happened to be Friday, and it just happened to be a home game. So I was like, there's no better option, no opportunity than now to do it